There was this incredible outpouring of grief. It's like this human symphony. I'll never forget it. It'll be with me to my grave, the sound of that. It's all I can hear when I look at this picture. It was just awful.
In early 2003, photojournalist Philip Blenkinsop made a tragic discovery in the middle of the jungle, stumbling upon the CIA's long-abandoned secret army in the Hmong Special Zone of Laos.
We were the first white faces that these people had seen since they were abandoned by the Americans. They thought that those days of living in fear and being on the run had finished.
12,000 veteran fighters. Their women and children had been clashing with Laotian communist troops for the last 30 years. Now, they want out. Laos is the only landlocked country in Southeast Asia. Due to its strategic location, Laos was used as a pawn in the strategic games between neighboring states, and more recently, between world powers. More bombs were dropped on the plain of Jars in northern Laos than anywhere else on Earth. Before the war, some 50,000 people lived here. Many of them were members of the Hmong people, an ethnic hill tribe.
And there were thousands of refugees just living like animals on the floor. And I walked up to the first one and we started talking, and he mentioned that he'd been bombed. I wouldn't have even thought to ask him. And I remember that I was in complete shock. Oh my God, I never heard of this, and I'm living in Laos.
Laos's problem was its geographic location, since it neighbored on both communist North Vietnam and China. In 1954, Laos was declared neutral. Yet, due to its strategic importance, Laos became a microcosm of the Cold War between left and right-wing ideologies. In view of the domino theory, the US government designated Laos a buffer state, meant to stem the advance of communism. That's why the US paid 100% of the Laotian military budget. However, in 1960, fighting erupted between conservatives, neutralists, and the Pathet Lao.
The security of all Southeast Asia will be endangered if Laos loses its neutral independence. Its own safety runs with the safety of us all, in real neutrality, observed by all.
And they finally found these hill people, Hmong, that disliked the Vietnamese intensely, that lived in the hills. And we found that these people would fight, could be trained, organized under Vang Pao.
Hmong mercenaries were trained in Long Cheng by one of Thailand's elite military units. Most Hmong had never seen welded metal, let alone planes. Their medieval culture was about to clash with the space age head-on. Before they knew how to drive, they learned to fly.
Their field agents had the relations with the Hmong elders. They'd worked out the arrangement with Vang Pao. It was their airline, Air America, that owned most of the agile aircraft flying in the mountains, bringing in supplies, extracting recruits for about a 30,000-man militia, a 30,000-man secret army. It was actually called the Armée Clandestine.
CIA case officers closely supervised the counterinsurgency offensives and tested a new strategy to batter the communist Pathet Lao. The CIA's guerrilla army was fighting with air support. Bombers piloted by Hmong soldiers were called in from Long Cheng. In 1965, the U.S. introduced combat troops into Vietnam. With the world's attention focused on this expanding conflict, the CIA's war next door in Laos remained low-key. The Vietnam War starts turning the gears of the American war machine in Laos. More than 400 flights a day come into Long Cheng. The secret base became the country's second largest city. South of the plain of Jars, the CIA's army in Long Cheng blocked the communists from advancing towards the capital city of Vientiane. The front kept shifting back and forth. After President Johnson stopped bombing North Vietnam in May 1968, the air war over Laos escalated to new levels. The Americans sent ever more bombers, and the North Vietnamese public opinion was turned against the Vietnam War. However, Laos veterans were forced to stay silent.
Skyline Ridge, we lost 900 people, killed, missing in action, and also wounded in action. And that totaled out to almost 3 battalions that we lost. And that was all within a week and a half to almost 2 weeks time.
Vang Pao spends a lot of time visiting the isolated Hmong settlements, trying to boost his people's morale. Except for the small local garrison, there are usually few men present. They are all the way at the front. One of his unpleasant duties is to inform wives and mothers that their loved ones are dead or missing.
These are the bitter realities of the conference table neutrality in Laos.
What had started as an air-supported guerrilla war had escalated into an all-out air war. Although the B-52 proved to be the wrong weapon to attack soldiers in the jungle, the war machine continued inexorably. For a period of 9 years, the U.S. Air Force conducted airstrikes every 8 minutes.
TACAN pad looking into the valley, and suddenly the whole valley just exploded. It must have been terrifying to anybody that survived it. I mean, the whole valley.
The secret war in Laos was the largest air war in human history. The United States dropped more bombs on Laos than it did on Germany and Japan combined during World War II. In May 1975, 2 weeks after the end of the Vietnam War, the Pathet Lao won, and the CIA evacuated Long Cheng. They took 3,000 Hmong with them. Thousands more were left behind to fend for themselves. Now, more than 30 years later, these forgotten people finally get their chance for peace.
Mẹ cột lâu nữa thầu cũng về helicopter để lúc rõ mông nữa một trong mông cha cụ tì đã ca xe luôn rồi lồng chân cụ quá đó cụ nó thấy sao thế mới rồi